Welcome to Drowseworthy. Tonight, we are going to leave the comfort of our modern homes. We are going to travel back through the centuries, across the Mediterranean Sea, to a city of white marble and olive trees. We are going to the city of Athens in the 5th century BC. This is often called the Golden Age. When we think of ancient Greece, we usually picture philosophers in white robes, discussing the nature of the universe under the shade of a portico. We imagine the Parthenon gleaming in the sun. We think of democracy, art, and poetry. But tonight, we are going to look past the marble monuments. We are going to step into the narrow, winding streets where the real people lived. We are going to experience the quiet, grinding reality of daily life in the ancient world. But don't worry, this is not a story of high drama or anxiety. We are going to explore the mundane details, the texture of the bread, the smell of the olive oil lamp, the sound of the loom. We will see that life in the Golden Age was less about glory and more about endurance. So, if you haven't already, this is the perfect time to dim the lights. Perhaps turn on a fan to mimic the sound of the Aegean wind. Let your shoulders drop, unclench your jaw. Let your breathing slow down. Let's drift back to the year 430 BC. Imagine you are waking up. It is still dark. The sun has not yet risen over Mount Hymettus. The city of Athens is asleep, but the silence is beginning to break. You are lying on a wooden couch, a climb, covered with a rough wool blanket. The mattress is stuffed with dried reeds, or perhaps feathers, if you are lucky. It rustles softly when you move. The air in the room is stale and still. Your house is not a palace. It is a small, cramped box made of sun-dried mud bricks. The walls are thick, designed to keep out the heat of the summer and the thieves of the night. There are no glass windows. High up on the wall, there is a small slit that lets in a faint grey light from the street. You can hear the city waking up. A rooster crows in the courtyard next door. A dog barks in the distance. The sound of a heavy cart rumbling over the cobblestones. You sit up. Your body aches. There is no softness in this world. Everything is hard. The bed is hard. The floor is hard-packed earth. The life is hard. You swing your legs over the side of the couch and your feet touch the cool dirt floor. You fumble in the darkness for your sandals, leather straps that bind your feet, worn smooth by years of use. You need light. You find the small clay lamp on the table. It is shaped like a shallow bowl with a spout. You pour a little olive oil into it, precious oil that could have been food. You light the wick with a coal from the brazier that was banked last night. The flame sputters and then steadies, casting a warm, flickering orange glow around the room. The shadows dance on the rough plaster walls. The room is sparsely furnished. A few wooden stools, a low table, a chest for clothes. Privacy is a concept that doesn't really exist here. Your family is sleeping in the same room, or perhaps in the small room next door. You can hear their breathing. Your first task of the day is water. There is no tap to turn. No pipes bringing fresh water into your home. You or the women of your household must go out. You pick up a heavy clay jar, an amphora. It has 2 handles and a pointed bottom. You open the heavy wooden door and step out into the street. The air outside is cool, a relief from the stuffiness of the house. But the smell hits you instantly. Athens is a city without plumbing. The streets are narrow, winding alleys of dirt and stone. There are no sewers. The waste of the city is thrown into the street. It is a permanent, earthy, pungent smell that hangs over everything. It smells of animals, of refuse, of stagnant water. You walk carefully, watching your step in the dim light. You head toward the public fountain house. You are not alone. Shadows are moving in the dawn light. Other people, mostly women and slaves, are walking with their jars. There is a quiet murmuring of voices. This is the social network of the city. The news is shared here in the line for water. You reach the fountain. The water flows from a lion head spout carved into the stone wall. It splashes into a basin. The sound of the water is clean and bright. You wait your turn. You fill your jar. It is heavy now, perhaps 40 pounds. You lift it onto your shoulder or your head. You walk back. This water is precious. You will not use it for a long, luxurious shower. You will use it to drink, to cook, and to wash your hands and face sparingly. Every drop represents labor. Back inside, the house is stirring. Breakfast is simple. There is no coffee, no eggs and bacon. You eat a piece of barley bread. It is called mesa. It is more like a dense cake or a porridge than the fluffy wheat bread we know. It is gritty. The flour was ground between stones, and small pieces of rock always get into the mix. You chew carefully. You might dip it in a little wine. The wine is not like modern wine. It is thick, sweet, and always watered down. To drink wine straight acrotis is considered barbaric, something only a drunkard or a Scythian would do. You mix it with water in a large bowl, a crater. It kills the germs in the water and gives you a few calories. Perhaps there are a few figs or olives, a bit of goat cheese. This is your fuel for the day, and you will need it, because your day is going to be filled with work. The concept of a weekend does not exist. The concept of retirement does not exist. You work until you can't. If you are a craftsman, a potter, a shoemaker, a metal worker, your workshop is likely right here in your house, or a small room opening onto the street. Imagine you are a potter. You go to your wheel. It is a heavy disc of stone or wood spun by your foot. You take a lump of wet clay. You center it. Your hands are permanently stained with red clay. Your skin is dry and cracked. You throw the pot, spinning, shaping, smoothing. It is a meditative work, but it is physically demanding. Your back aches from bending over. Your leg muscles burn from kicking the wheel. You make cups, bowls, lamps, hundreds of them. You have to sell them in the Agora, the marketplace, to buy the barley for tomorrow's bread. If you are a farmer, and many citizens of Athens are farmers who walk out to their fields every morning, your life is ruled by the sun and the soil. You walk out of the city gates, past the cemeteries with their marble gravestones. You walk to your plot of land. It is rocky soil. Attica is not a lush paradise. It is a land of limestone and scrub. You grow olive trees, you grow vines, you grow barley. You work with simple tools, a wooden plough tipped with iron, a heavy hoe. You are constantly anxious about the rain. If it doesn't rain, the crops die. If it rains too much, the mildew comes. The gods are capricious. You offer a little of your lunch, a splash of wine, a piece of bread to Demeter, the goddess of the harvest. Please let the grain grow. The sun climbs higher. The heat builds. In the summer, Athens is a furnace. The white rocks reflect the glare. The dust coats your throat. You wear a chiton. It is a simple garment, basically a rectangular piece of wool or linen, pinned at the shoulders and tied at the waist. It is practical, but it gets hot, and it is itchy. Wool is the fabric of your life. Your wife, your mother, your daughters, they spend every spare moment spinning and weaving. The sound of the loom is the heartbeat of the house. Clack thump, clack thump. Making cloth is incredibly time-consuming. To make a single cloak takes weeks of work. Cleaning the wool, carding it, spinning it into thread on a drop spindle, weaving it on a vertical loom. Because clothes are so labor-intensive, you don't have many. You have your everyday tunic, maybe a nicer one for festivals, a cloak, a hymetine for the winter. You don't wash them often. Soap as we know it doesn't exist. You wash clothes with stale urine for the ammonia or specialized clays, beating them against rocks. It is hard work, and it wears the fabric out. So you wear your clothes until they are threadbare. You get used to the smell of sweat and wool. Let's talk about the social world, the rigid hierarchy that defines who you are. If you are a male citizen, you are part of the demos. The people, you have the right to vote, to speak in the assembly. But can you afford to? The assembly meets on the Nix, a hill overlooking the city. They debate for hours, days. If you are a wealthy aristocrat with slaves to run your farm, you can spend all day listening to Pericles give speeches. You can debate philosophy. You can go to the gymnasium to exercise, oiling your body and wrestling in the dust. But if you are a potter or a small farmer, if you don't work today, you don't eat tomorrow. So, democracy is there for you, but it is a luxury you often cannot afford to consume. And then there are the others, the majority, the women. In Athens, a respectable woman is invisible. Her domain is the oikos, the household. She manages the stores. She spins the wool. She raises the children. She rarely leaves the house, except for religious festivals or funerals. She does not go to the market. The men do the shopping. She does not go to the symposium parties. Her world is the interior courtyard of the house, a patch of sky, a well, the loom, and the slaves. Slavery is everywhere. It is the engine of the ancient world. Even a poor family might own a slave. A person bought with silver, likely a captive from a war or a victim of pirates. Thracians, Scythians, Syrians. They do the hardest work. The mining in the silver mines of Lorena hellish existence underground. The grinding of the grain. The carrying of burdens. You live side by side with them. In a small house, the lines blur. You work together. You eat the same food, but the distinction is absolute. You are a person. They are a living tool, as Aristotle would later say. Disease is a shadow that follows you everywhere. You don't know about bacteria or viruses. You think sickness is caused by miasma, bad air, or an imbalance of your humors, or the anger of a godlike Apollo, the archer who shoots plague arrows. You have lost children. Everyone has. Infant mortality is terrifyingly high. A baby is not even given a name until the 10th day of its life, the Amphidromia ceremony, because so many die in the first week. You try not to get too attached, but you do. You grieve. You bury them in small clay jars under the floor or outside the city walls. If you get sick of fever, an infection from a cut, a toothache, there is little to be done. You might go to a shrine of Asclepius, the healing god. You sleep in the temple, hoping for a dream that will tell you how to be cured. Or you might pay a doctor to bleed you, cutting a vein to let the bad blood out. Often, this just makes you weaker, so you live with a fatalism, a knowledge that life is fragile, that the thread of your life, spun by the fates, can be cut at any moment. But it is not all grim. There is community. The Agora is the heart of your social life. It is a noisy, chaotic, vibrant place. Imagine walking through it. The stalls are set up under the shade of plane trees or in the colonnades of the stowers. Here is the fishmonger, shouting about his fresh catch from Phaleran. Small, oily fish, eels, maybe a tuna if you are rich. Here is the vegetable seller, onions, garlic, cabbage, lentils, chickpeas. Here is the sausage seller, the bread seller. You haggle, you shout, you exchange gossip. Did you hear what the Spartans are doing? Did you hear about the play at the festival? Money changes hands. The silver drachma, stamped with the head of Athena on one side and her owl on the other. But you have to be careful. The coins are often clipped or counterfeit. You weigh them in your hand. You bite them to see if the metal is soft, silver or hard lead covered in a thin wash. You navigate the city by landmarks, not street names. Turn left at the statue of Hermes. Go past the shrine of the hero. Religion is not something you do on Sundays. It is woven into every minute of your life. Every intersection has a Hermestone pillar with a head of Hermes to protect travelers. Every house has a shrine to Hestia, the goddess of the hearth. You are constantly making small deals with the gods. I will pour this wine for you, Zeus, if you keep the lightning away. I will sacrifice this rooster to you, Asclepius, if you heal my son. The sacrifices are the main source of meat in your diet. Meat is expensive. You can't afford to just buy a steak. But at the great festivals, the Panathenaea, the Dionysia, the city sacrifices hundreds of oxen. The fat and the bones are burned for the gods. They like the smoke. The meat is cooked and distributed to the people. It is a public barbecue. For many poor Athenians, this is the only time they eat beef all year. Imagine the smell of roasting meat drifting over the city. It smells like a holiday. It smells like the gods are happy. As the sun begins to set, the workday ends. There is no street lighting. When the sun goes down, the city becomes dark and dangerous. There is no police force. If you are mugged, if you are murdered, it is up to your family to seek justice. So you go home. You bolt the heavy door. You eat your evening meal. Maybe a lentil soup. Maybe some dried fish. You light the lamp again. This is the time for family, for stories. You tell the myths. The story of Theseus killing the Minotaur. The story of Odysseus trying to get home. These aren't just stories. They are your history, your moral compass. They tell you what it means to be Greek, to be clever, to be brave, to endure suffering. If it is winter, you huddle around the brazier. It gives off a little heat, but also fumes. The house is drafty and cold. You wear your cloak inside. If it is summer, the heat lingers in the stones of the house all night. You might sleep on the roof to catch a breeze. You are part of a neighborhood, a deme. You know everyone. You know who is fighting with their wife. You know who owes money. You know whose son is a disappointment. This closeness is a safety net. If your house burns down, your neighbors will help. If you run out of flour, you can borrow a cup. But it is also a cage. There is no privacy. Your reputation is everything. If you are shamed, you are shamed in front of everyone you know. Transportation is your feet. You walk everywhere, to the fields, to the market, to the harbor at Piraeus, 5 miles away. The roads are dirt tracks. In the summer, they are dust. In the winter, they are mud. If you are rich, You might ride a mule or a horse, but mostly you walk. Your sandals slap against the ground, your calves are strong as iron. As you lie in your bed at the end of the day, you can hear the sounds of the city settling down. The shouting dies away, the carts stop rumbling. You can hear the wind in the olive trees, the hoot of an Alcibiades bird. You are tired. A deep, physical tiredness that modern people rarely feel. You have used your body all day. You have carried water. You have ground grain. You have hammered metal. Your survival is an accomplishment. You have made it through another day. You have fed your family. You have honored the gods. You close your eyes. Tomorrow, the rooster will crow. The neighbor will shout. The sun will beat down on the white rocks. But for now, there is the dark and the quiet. Before we move on from this long day in Athens, let's take a moment to ground ourselves in the present. Think about the luxury you have right now, the softness of your mattress, the clean, filtered air of your room, the water that flows from your tap, hot or cold, whenever you want it, the silence of your insulated walls. You don't have to worry about the olive crop. You don't have to worry about the Spartans invading. You don't have to worry about the plague. You are safe. Let that feeling of gratitude wash over you like cool water. You are not in the dusty streets of Athens. You are here. Let your breathing slow down. In, ... and out. In and out. Rest in the comfort of the modern world. Now, let's look a little deeper into the textures of this world. We talked about the wool, but think about the olive oil. It is the liquid gold of the ancient world. It is food. You dip your bread in it. You cook with it. It is light. It fuels your lamp. It is soap. You rub it on your body to clean yourself, then scrape it off with a metal tool called a strigil. It is medicine. You rub it on wounds. It is ritual. You pour it on the gravestones of your ancestors. Imagine the smell of it. Rich, grassy, slightly peppery. Imagine the feel of it on your skin. Smooth, warm. Think about the pottery. The clay of Attica is rich in iron. When it is fired in the kiln, it turns a deep, warm orange red. The potters paint figures on it with a slip that turns black in the firing. Black figures on red clay, or red figures on a black background. These pots are everywhere. They are the Tupperware of the ancient world. Storage jars, mixing bowls, perfume bottles. When you hold a Greek pot, you can feel the ridges left by the potter's fingers as the wheel spun. A frozen moment of creation from 2,500 years ago. Think about the bronze. The statues of the heroes are not white marble. That comes later, or as a Roman copy. The original Greek statues were often bronze. They gleam like gold in the sun. Bronze is an alloy. Copper and tin. It is hard. It rings when you strike it. The armor of the hoplite soldier is bronze. The helmet that covers the face, leaving only the eyes and mouth visible. The heavy round shield, the aspis. Imagine the weight of it. 30, 40 pounds of metal. Imagine the smell of the hot metal in the sun. The metallic tang on your hands. Think about the marble, Pentelic marble, quarried from Mount Pentelicus, 10 miles from the city. It is a creamy white stone that weathers to a golden honey color. The Parthenon is built of it. Thousands of tons of stone. Imagine the sound of the chisels. Tink, tink, tink. A million strikes to shape a single column. the dust of the marble coating the worker's hair like snow. These are the textures of Athens: wool, olive oil, clay, bronze, marble, rough, smooth, heavy, cool. As you drift deeper into relaxation, imagine touching these surfaces, the coolness of a marble column under your hand, the smoothness of a painted vase, the warmth of a wool cloak. You are drifting through the sensory world of the past. There is no danger here, only texture, only atmosphere. The city is sleeping now. The fires and the braziers have burned down to ash. The lamps have flickered out. The gods are watching from Mount Olympus, or perhaps they are sleeping too. You are drifting across the dark wind-dark sea, away from the hard earth, into the soft clouds of sleep. Sleep now. Sleep in the shadow of the Acropolis. Sleep. The rise and fall of Alcibiades, Athens' most controversial son. We have walked through the dusty streets of Athens. We have felt the heat of the kiln and heard the rhythmic thump of the loom. We have seen how the ordinary people lived, worked, and endured. Now, let us shift our gaze. Let us look away from the clay pots and the olive trees and look up toward the high peaks of ambition. We are going to follow the life of one man, a man who was everything Athens aspired to be and everything it feared. He was beautiful, he was brilliant, he was rich, and he was dangerous. This is the story of Alcibiades. His life reads like a Greek tragedy written by the gods themselves. It is a story about talent without wisdom, charisma without loyalty, and a brilliance that burned so bright it scorched everything it touched. So, settle deeper into your pillows. Let the tension of the day fade away. You are safe here, merely an observer of the past. Let us travel back to the year 450 BC. Imagine a house in the most exclusive district of Athens, a courtyard filled with statues and flowering vines. Here, a child is born. He enters the world with every advantage. His name is Alcibiades. His father, Clinias, is a hero, a wealthy aristocrat who commands ships and men. But fate strikes early. His father is killed in battle when Alcibiades is just a small boy. In another life, this might have been a tragedy that led to obscurity. But in Athens, connections are everything. The boy is taken in by his guardian, and his guardian happens to be Pericles. Pericles, the first citizen of Athens, the man who built the Parthenon, the man whose voice can sway the entire city. Imagine growing up in that household. The dinner table is not just a place to eat, it is a seminar on power. The guests who walk through the door are the shapers of the world. Sculptors like Phidias, playwrights like Sophocles, philosophers like Anaxagoras. Young Alcibiades soaks it all in. He learns how to speak, how to argue, how to charm, and he is charming. The ancient writers tell us he was stunningly handsome. In the Greek world, beauty was not just skin deep. It was considered a sign of the favor of the gods. Kalos kagathos, beautiful and good. People want to be near him. When he walks into the Agora, heads turn. When he speaks, people listen, even when he is just a boy. But there is a shadow, a wildness. As a young man, he finds a teacher. Imagine a dusty street corner. A man is standing there, barefoot, wearing an old, threadbare cloak. He is ugly, with a snub nose and bulging eyes. He is annoying everyone by asking questions they can't answer. This is Socrates. The relationship between the beautiful, wealthy aristocrat and the ugly, poor philosopher becomes the talk of the city. It is a complex bond. Socrates sees the potential in the boy. He sees a mind that is quick as lightning. He sees a soul that could be great, but he also sees the danger. He sees the vanity, the hunger for applause, the lack of discipline. They walk together by the Alisos river. They sit under the plane trees. Socrates tries to teach him virtue. He tries to teach him that the only thing that matters is the state of your soul. Alcibiades listens. He cries. He promises to be better. But then he goes to a party. The parties of Alcibiades become legendary. They are symposia that last for days. Wine flows like water. Flute girls play. The conversation is brilliant, but the behavior is wild. He spends money like a king. He enters 7 chariots in the Olympic Games 7 and takes first, second, and 4th place. It is a display of wealth that staggers the imagination. He dresses in long purple robes that trail on the ground, a sign of arrogance. He has a golden shield made, but instead of the family crest, it bears the image of Eros holding a thunderbolt. Love conquers all. It is a statement. He is saying, I am not like you. I am special. And Athens loves him for it. They love his style. They love his lisp, which becomes fashionable to imitate. They forgive his excesses because he is their golden boy. But the golden age is ending. The war is coming. The Peloponnesian War. The long, grinding struggle between Athens and Sparta. The whale against the elephant. The democracy against the oligarchy. Alcibiades comes of age in a city at war. He proves that he is not just a fop, he is a soldier. He fights at the Battle of Patadia. He fights alongside Socrates. When the philosopher is surrounded, Alcibiades stays to protect him. He shows courage. He enters the political arena, the assembly. Imagine the Knicks, the rocky hill where the democracy meets. 6,000 men sitting on the stone, listening to the speakers. It is a rough crowd. They can shout you down. They can laugh at you. But when Alcibiades steps onto the beamer, the speaker's platform, the crowd goes quiet. He is mesmerizing. He speaks with passion. He argues for war. He argues for aggression. He argues that Athens should not just survive, but conquer. He appeals to their vanity. He tells them they are the masters of the sea, and they follow him. But his greatest ambition is yet to come. The year is 415 BC. The war has been dragging on for 16 years. There is an uneasy truce. Alcibiades stands before the assembly and proposes a plan so bold, so audacious, that it takes their breath away. The Sicilian expedition. He wants to take the fleet and sail to Sicily, to conquer the great city of Syracuse. He paints a picture of untold wealth, of grain and horses, of a stepping stone to conquering Carthage, and then Italy, and then the whole world. It is a fantasy, a dream. The older generals, like Nicias, argue against it. They say it is too far, too dangerous. They say Athens should conserve its strength. But Alcibiades mocks them. He says Nicias is old and tired. He says youth and courage will win the day. The assembly votes. They are intoxicated by his words. They vote for the expedition. They vote to send the largest fleet ever assembled by a Greek city. The preparations are frantic. Ships are fitted out. Armor is polished. The city is buzzing with excitement. And then, just days before the fleet is set to sail, something happens. Something strange. Something dark. The citizens of Athens wake up one morning to a shocking sight. The Herms have been mutilated. A Herm is a stone pillar. It has the head of the god Hermes on top, and on the front, a phallus. It is a sacred object, a symbol of luck, of fertility, of protection for travelers. They stand outside every house, at every crossroads, in every temple, and in one night, almost all of them have been smashed. Faces chipped off, phalluses broken. It is a mass sacrilege, a coordinated act of vandalism. The city goes into a panic. This is a terrible omen. Hermes is the god of travelers. If you are about to send a fleet across the sea, offending Hermes is the worst possible start. Who did it? Whispers begin to circulate. It must be a plot. It must be a conspiracy to overthrow the democracy. And then the fingers start pointing. It sounds like something Alcibiades would do. Remember his parties. Remember how he mocks the gods. His enemies seize the moment. They accuse him not just of smashing the statues, but of profaning the Eleusinian mysteries, the most sacred rituals in Greece, by performing mock ceremonies in his home. Alcibiades denies it. He demands a trial immediately. He wants to clear his name before he sells. But his enemies are clever. They say, no, you must sail. The fleet cannot wait. We will hold the trial when you return. They know that once he is gone, they can poison the minds of the people against him. So Alcibiades sails. He stands on the deck of his flagship, resplendent in his armor. The fleet is magnificent. Triremes with painted eyes on their prows. Soldiers singing the paean to Apollo. The whole city comes down to the harbor to watch them go. It is the peak of his glory, but the poison is working back home. The fleet reaches Sicily. They start the campaign. Alcibiades is brilliant, engaging in diplomacy, winning over allies. Then a ship arrives from Athens, the Salaminia, the state galley. It carries a summons. Alcibiades, you are recalled to Athens to stand trial for impiety and treason. He knows what this means. If he goes back, he will be condemned. He will be executed. The mood in the city has turned against him. The golden boy is now the public enemy. He boards his own ship. He tells the captains of the Salaminia that he will follow them. But in the night, off the coast of Italy, his ship slips away. He vanishes. The Athenians condemn him to death in absentia. They confiscate his property. The priests curse his name. But Alcibiades is not done. He does the unthinkable, the unforgivable. He goes to Sparta. Sparta, the enemy. The city that hates Athens. The city of grim warriors and iron discipline. Imagine the scene. Alcibiades, the peacock of Athens, walking into the austere assembly of the Spartans. He stands before them. He is charming. He is persuasive. He tells them, I am not a traitor. I loved Athens when it was a democracy, but now it is a mob. I am not fighting my country. I am fighting to recover it. And then he gives them advice. He tells them exactly how to defeat Athens. He tells them to send a general to Sicily to help Syracuse. This single piece of advice dooms the Athenian expedition. He tells them to fortify Deklaia, a fortress just outside Athens. This cuts Athens off from its silver mines and its farmland, strangling the city year-round. He teaches the Spartans how to win, and for a while he lives like a Spartan. He cuts his hair short. He takes cold baths. He eats their famous black broth. a disgusting soup made of pork blood, and Vinegrin claims he loves it. He charms everyone, even the king of Sparta. Perhaps too much. Rumors begin to swirl. The king of Sparta, Agis, is away with the army. His wife, Queen Timea, gives birth to his son, and people whisper that the baby looks remarkably like Alcibiades. The king is not amused. The Spartans turn against him. An order is sent out for his execution. Alcibiades has worn out his welcome. Again, so he runs. Again, this time, he goes to the Persians. The Persians are the ancestral enemy of all Greeks. They are the barbarians. He goes to the court of Tissaphernes, the satrap governor of Lydia, and once again, the chameleon changes his colors. He adopts Persian dress. He learns the language. He lives in luxury, drinking from gold cups, lounging on soft carpets. He becomes the advisor to the satrap. He whispers in the Persian's ear, "Don't let Sparta win. Don't let Athens win. Let them grind each other down. Keep the war going." It is a masterclass in manipulation. He is playing a three-dimensional chess game with the great powers of the world, but his heart is still in Athens. The war is going badly for his home city. The advice he gave the Spartans worked too well. The Sicilian expedition was destroyed. The fleet is gone. The empire is crumbling. Athens is desperate. Alcibiades sends messages to the fleet stationed at Samos. "I can bring you Persian gold. I can bring you the Persian fleet, but only if you take me back." The sailors at Samos are desperate too. They agree. In one of the most stunning reversals in history, the traitor is invited back. He is elected general. He doesn't return to Athens immediately. He wants a victory first. He takes command of a small fleet. He fights the Spartans at the Battle of Cyzicus. It is a stormy day. The rain is pouring down. Alcibiades uses the weather to hide his ships. He lures the Spartans out. He traps them. He wins a total victory. He captures the entire Spartan fleet. Now he can go home. The year is 407 BC. His ship sails into the Piraeus, the harbor of Athens. The crowds are huge. Everyone has come out to see him. He is nervous. He doesn't land at first. He stands on the deck, looking for friendly faces. He is afraid they might stone him. But then his cousins call out to him. The crowd cheers. He steps onto the soil of Attica for the first time in 8 years. He is a hero. The people throw garlands of flowers on him. They say he was the victim of a plot. He is the only one who can save us. They give him back his property. They throw the curses into the sea. For a few months, it seems like the dream is real. Alcibiades is in command. Athens is winning. But the wheel of fortune never stops turning. He leaves the main fleet to go to a meeting. He leaves a subordinate in charge, with strict orders: do not fight. But the subordinate is foolish. He wants glory. He engages the Spartans and loses a minor battle at Notium. It is not a disaster, but it breaks the spell. The Athenians are fickle. Their love turns back to suspicion in an instant. He is negligent. He is acting like a tyrant. He cannot be trusted. They vote him out of office. Alcibiades knows the game is up. He knows they will come for him again. So he leaves. For the last time. He sails north to his own private castle in the Thracian Chersonese. He becomes a warlord, living on the edge of the civilized world. From his castle, he watches the end of the war. He sees the Athenian fleet gathered at a place called Ecospotomy. They are careless. They are beached on an open shore, vulnerable. Alcibiades rides down to the beach. He warns the Athenian generals. You are in a bad position. Move your ships. They laugh at him. Go away, Alcibiades. You are not in command anymore. A few days later, the Spartans attack. They catch the Athenians on the beach. They destroy the fleet. The war is over. Athens falls. The walls are torn down to the sound of flute music. Alcibiades is now a hunted man. Sparta controls Greece, and the Spartans have not forgotten the queen and her baby. They have not forgotten the betrayal. They send a message to the Persians: kill him. Alcibiades is living in a remote village in Phrygia, modern Turkey, with a courtesan named Timandra. One night, he wakes up. The house is surrounded. The assassins are too afraid to go in and face him. Sword to sword, so they set the house on fire. The flames roar up. The smoke fills the room. Alcibiades grabs his sword. He wraps his cloak around his arm to shield himself from the fire. He kicks open the door and charges out. The assassins scatter. They stand back in the darkness and rain arrows down on him. He falls. He dies alone, far from the Parthenon, far from the cheering crowds, far from the arguments of Socrates. The story ends in silence. Let us pause here, in the quiet of the aftermath. The fire has burned out. The arrows are spent. What was it all for? Alcibiades had everything: beauty, wealth, genius. But he lacked the one thing that brings peace: contentment. He was a man who could not sit still. He was a man who needed the world to look at him. His life was a storm. It was exciting, yes. It was brilliant. But it was exhausting. He spent his whole life running toward glory, running away from consequences. As you lie here tonight, think about the luxury of being still. You do not need to be a hero. You do not need to conquer Sicily. You do not need to outsmart the Spartans. You just need to rest. Let the ambition of Alcibiades fade into the history books. Let the shouting of the assembly dissolve into the air. Feel the stillness of your own room. It is a solid, quiet thing. The walls are not burning. The assassins are not at the door. You are safe. Think about the texture of the history we have just walked through. The rough stone of the Herms. The purple silk of Alcibiades' robes. The wood of the trireme, smelling of salt and pine tar. The cold iron of the Spartan sword. These are just memories now. Textures in the dark. Imagine a ship sailing on a calm sea at night. The moon is reflecting on the black water. The sail is full of a gentle breeze. It is sailing away from the war, away from the politics. It is sailing toward a quiet island where nothing happens. You are on that ship. You can feel the gentle rocking motion. Up and down, up and down. It is lulling you to sleep. Your breathing is slow and steady like the tide. In and out. In, ... and out. The golden age is over. The heroes are sleeping. And now it is your turn. Sleep now. Sleep in the quiet of the ages. Sleep. The mystery of the Antikythera Mechanism. Ancient Greece's lost computer. We leave the politics of Athens now. We leave the speeches of Alcibiades and the arguments of Socrates. We go to the sea, the Mediterranean, the wind-arc sea of Homer. It is a beautiful, dangerous place. Storms rise up without warning. Ships are fragile things, made of wood and rope, and beneath the waves there are secrets. Tonight we are going to dive deep. We are going to visit one of the most perplexing mysteries in all of archaeology. It is a story about an object that shouldn't exist. An object so advanced it challenged everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. This is the story of the Antikythera Mechanism. Let us travel not to ancient times, but to the spring of the year 1900. Imagine the Aegean Sea. The water is choppy, the wind is blowing. A group of sponge divers are sheltering from a storm off the small island of Antikythera. It is a remote, rocky place between Crete and the mainland. The captain, Demetrios Kondos, decides to send a diver down to check for sponges while they wait out the weather. The diver is named Alcibiades. He puts on the heavy canvas suit and the copper helmet. He sinks into the dark water. He goes down deep, 45 meters. A few minutes later, the signal rope jerks frantically. Elias is pulled up. When they take off his helmet, he is rambling. He is terrified. He says he has seen a graveyard. He says there are horses and men lying on the seafloor, rotting. The captain thinks Elias has nitrogen narcosis, the rapture of the deep. He decides to go down himself. He descends into the gloom. And there, in the silence of the deep, he sees them. Statues. Bronze horses, marble men, their limbs buried in the sand, their faces eaten by sea worms. It wasn't a graveyard, it was a shipwreck. A massive Roman cargo ship, dating from the 1st century BC. It had been carrying a fortune in looted Greek art back to Rome. It had smashed against the cliffs of Antikythera and sunk, taking its treasures to the bottom. The divers began to salvage what they could. They brought up bronze statues of unparalleled beauty, the Antikythera youth, the philosopher. These were masterpieces. The world was amazed. But among the golden bronzes and the white marbles, they brought up something else, a lump. It was a corroded, calcified mass of bronze and wood, about the size of a shoebox. It looked like nothing, just a piece of junk, perhaps a broken piece of the ship's bilge pump. It was thrown into a box at the National Museum in Athens and ignored. 2 years later, in 1902, an archaeologist named Valerios Stais noticed something. The lump had dried out and cracked open, and inside he saw something impossible. A gear wheel. It was a precision gear with tiny, perfectly cut teeth. This shouldn't be there. The ancient Greeks didn't have gears like this. Gears like this belong in a Swiss watch from the 18th century, not a shipwreck from the time of Julius Caesar. For decades, scholars refused to believe it. They said it must be a modern instrument that fell onto the wreck, a medieval astrolabe dropped by a passing ship. It was too advanced. It broke the timeline of history. But as technology improved, we looked closer. In the 1950s, a historian named Derek de Sala Price began to X-ray the lump. He found not just one gear, but dozens, layer upon layer of them. And in 2005, a team used high-resolution CT scans to see inside the corrosion without damaging it. What they found was breathtaking. The Antikythera Mechanism was not a toy. It was a computer. It contained at least 30 bronze gears. The largest had 223 teeth. It was an analog computer designed to calculate the cycles of the cosmos. Imagine how it worked. It was a wooden box about the size of a large book. On the side, there was a hand crank. When you turned the crank, the gears inside would turn. On the front face, there were pointers. One pointer showed the position of the sun in the zodiac. Another showed the position of the moon. A smaller dial showed the phase of the lunar black and white ball that rotated to show if it was full, new, or waxing. It was a mechanical model of the universe. But it gets more complex. On the back of the box, there were two large spiral dials. One spiral tracked the metonic cycler, 19-year cycle used to synchronize the lunar calendar with the solar year. The other spiral tracked the Saros cycle, an 18-year cycle used to predict eclipses. Think about that. You could turn the crank and look into the future. You could say, will there be a solar eclipse on this day, 10 years from now? And the machine would tell you. It even had a small dial to track the cycle of the Pan-Hellenic Games, the Olympics. It would tell you which year the games were held in Olympia, Delphi, Nemea, or Izmir. It was a machine that organized time itself. The engineering required to build it is staggering. The gear teeth are triangular. They are cut with a precision that suggests a sophisticated workshop, not a lone tinkerer. And it incorporated advanced astronomical theory. The moon does not move at a constant speed across the sky. Because its orbit is elliptical, it moves faster when it is close to the Earth and slower when it is far away. This is a subtle motion, but the Greeks knew about it. They called it the lunar anomaly. The Antikythera Mechanism modeled this perfectly. Inside the machine, there were two gears mounted on top of each other, slightly off-center, connected by a pin and a slot. This arrangement forced the moon gear to speed up and slow down, mimicking the real moon in the sky. It is a brilliant mechanical solution, and we don't see anything like it again for 1,000 years. The discovery of this mechanism forces us to rewrite history. We used to think the Greeks were great at philosophy and art, but bad at technology. We thought they didn't care about machines. But this device proves they were capable of precision engineering that rivals the Industrial Revolution. And here is the most haunting part of the mystery. There is only one. We have thousands of Greek vases, thousands of statues, thousands of coins, but we have only one mechanism. If they could build this, why didn't they build more? Why didn't this technology spread? Why didn't it lead to a mechanical revolution 2,000 years early? Some scholars think there were more. Cicero, the Roman orator, writes about a device made by Archimedes that could show the movements of the planets. He writes about another made by his friend Posidonius. Perhaps these devices were rare, luxury items made for kings and billionaires. And what happens to bronze when a civilization collapses? It gets melted down. Bronze is valuable. If you are a starving peasant in the Dark Ages, and you find a strange machine full of gears that you don't understand, you don't put it in a museum. You melt it down to make a pot, or a sword, or a plowshare. The Antikythera Mechanism survived only because it was lost. The sea protected it. The corrosion formed a hard shell around it. To anyone who found it later, it just looked like a rock. It is a survivor of a lost lineage of technology. Let us imagine the workshop where it was made. Perhaps it was on the island of Rhodes, a center of astronomy. Imagine the master craftsman. He is sitting at a bench. The light is coming in from a window, illuminating the dust motes. He is holding a sheet of bronze. He is cutting the teeth of a gear with a file scritch. Scritch, scritch. He has to cut 223 teeth. If he makes a mistake, the gear is ruined. The calculation will be wrong. The eclipse will not happen when the machine says it will. He works with patience. He works with math. He is building a universe in a box. He doesn't know that his creation will end up on a ship bound for Rome. He doesn't know the ship will sink. He doesn't know his work will sleep at the bottom of the sea for 2,000 years. He just knows the satisfaction of the gear turning smoothly, the click of the pole, the movement of the pointer. Recent research has revealed even more secrets. Using advanced imaging, we have been able to read the text inscribed on the bronze plates of the machine. It is a user manual. It tells the user how to read the dials. It talks about the little golden sphere that represents the sun. It talks about the planets. This confirms that the device was not just a calculator. It was a teaching tool, a way to explain the cosmos to a layman. Look, the philosopher would say, turning the crank. This is how the heavens move. It is not magic. It is order. That is the true legacy of the mechanism. It represents a shift in how humans saw the world. Before this, the sky was the domain of the gods. Zeus threw thunderbolts. Apollo drove the sun chariot. But the machine says, no, the sky is a machine. It follows rules. It is predictable. It is the beginning of the scientific worldview. Let us pause for a moment and think about the fragility of knowledge. The Greeks had this technology. They had the math. They had the craftsmanship. And then they lost it. The Roman Empire fell. The libraries burned. The bronze was melted down. For 1,000 years, Europe forgot how to make precision gears. We went backward. It wasn't until the clockmakers of the late Middle Ages started building cathedral clocks that we reached this level of sophistication again. It is a sobering thought. Progress is not a straight line. It can stop. It can reverse. We can forget things. As you lie here tonight, safe in the modern world, think about the machines that surround you. Your phone, your computer, your car. They are the distant descendants of that bronze box. But they are also fragile. If the power goes out, if the factories stop, how long would we remember how to build them? The Antikythera Mechanism is a message in a bottle from the past. It says, we were here. We were smart. We reached for the stars. And then, silence. Imagine the mechanism resting on the seafloor. The ship has rotted away. The statues are buried in the sand. But the bronze gears are still there, frozen in rust. Fish swim past them. The pressure of the deep ocean weighs on them. Time passes. Centuries, millennia. The gears do not turn. But the knowledge is locked inside them, waiting. Waiting for a sponge diver named Elias to see a hand sticking out of the sand. Waiting for the X-rays. Waiting for us to remember. Now, let us move away from the intellectual puzzle and back to the sensory experience. Let us ground ourselves again. Think about the materials of this story. Bronze. It is an alloy of copper and tin. It is heavy. It feels cool to the touch. When it is new, it gleams like gold. When it is old, it turns green, verdigris. Think about the texture of the sea sponge. The divers of Antikythera were sponge divers. They harvested the natural sponges from the seafloor. A natural sponge is rough but soft. It smells of iodine and salt. It holds water. Think about the wood of the box. It would have been oak or perhaps cypress, wood that smells of the forest. The machine was a marriage of the earth's metal and the forest wood to describe the sky stars. You are drifting. Imagine you are a diver. You are floating weightless in the clear blue water. It is quiet down here. The noise of the surface is gone. You breathe slowly, in ... and out. The The bubbles rise silver toward the sun. You are drifting over the wreck. You see the shapes of the amphitheater, wine jars scattered on the sand. You see the marble arm of a statue reaching up. It is not scary. It is peaceful. It is a museum of silence. You drift past the bronze gears. You acknowledge them, a nod to the ancient genius. But you do not need to understand them tonight. You do not need to calculate the eclipse. You just need to float. The water supports you. You are light. The currents gently rock you, back and forth, like the movement of the tides, like the movement of the moon. Everything is a cycle, waking and sleeping. You are entering the cycle of sleep. Let the gears of your mind stop turning. You don't need to predict the future. You don't need to solve the problems of tomorrow. Let the mechanism of your thoughts slow down. Click, click, click. Silence. The crank has stopped turning. The pointers are still. The stars are fixed in their courses. You are safe. You are resting in the deep, quiet ocean of sleep. Sleep now. Sleep with the secrets of the past. Sleep. Life in the marble halls. The hidden world of Greek aristocracy. As our journey through the ancient world reaches its final destination, we leave behind the dusty struggles of the common citizens. We leave behind the dramatic tales of ambitious politicians and the rusted gears of lost technology. We turn our gaze now to the high ground, to the marble halls, to the world of the Eupotridatha, well-born. Here, in courtyards perfumed with incense and echoing with the soft music of the lyre, we discover a way of life so removed from the ordinary experience that it might as well exist on a different planet. But as we walk through these gilded doors, we will find that luxury is not the same as freedom. We will discover that even here, among the silk and the silver, there are chains. They are just made of gold. So, let the tension of your own life fade away. You are not a struggling farmer tonight. You are a guest in the house of the elite. Let us travel back to the year 420 BC. Imagine you are waking up. Your awakening begins not with the harsh crow of a rooster, nor with the anxiety of a harvest that must be gathered. It begins with silence. The sun is already high. The light that enters your chamber is soft, filtered through the leaves of the plane tree in the courtyard and the slatted wooden shutters of your window. You are lying on a bed that is a masterpiece of craftsmanship. The frame is carved from imported citron wood, inlaid with ivory and tortoiseshell. The mattress is not stuffed with the scratchy reeds of the riverbank, but with the softest goose down plucked from the breast of the bird. The sheets are made of linen so fine, so white, that they feel like cool water against your skin. The room is spacious. The air is cool, protected by thick stone walls. The plaster is painted with fresco scenes of dolphins leaping in a blue sea, or swallows flying in the spring. You stir. You do not have to rush. In this world, time is a river that flows around you, not a current you must fight against. A slave, who has been waiting silently in the corner, approaches. Your morning routine is a ritual of purification and adornment. You do not go to the public fountain to wash. Water is brought to you. Bronze basins, polished until they gleam like gold, are filled with warm water. This water has been heated over a fire that you did not have to build, using wood you did not have to chop. Scented oils are brought in small alabaster jars. Oils imported from the East. Rose oil from Rhodes. Iris oil from Corinth. Myrrh from Arabia. The slave washes you. The water is sponged over your back. The oil is rubbed into your skin until you glisten. Then comes the dressing. You do not wear the rough, scratchy wool of the peasant. You wear a chiton made of the finest materials available in the Mediterranean. Linen from Egypt, woven so tightly it shimmers. Or perhaps, if you were truly wealthy, silk from the distant lands of the seers, a fabric so light it floats on the air. The draping of the cloth is an art form. It is not just thrown on. It is folded, pinned with gold brooches, and arranged to fall in graceful, vertical lines that mimic the columns of a temple. Over this, you drape a himation, a cloak. And here is the true sign of your power, the color. Your cloak is dyed with Tyrian purple. This is not a color that comes from a plant. It comes from the sea, from the murex snail. It takes thousands of snails, crushed and boiled in lead vats, to produce enough dye for a single garment. The process is foul-smelling and incredibly expensive. A cloak dyed in this purple is worth its weight in silver. When you wear it, you carry the scent of the sea and the scent of money. It is a signal to everyone who sees you. I am not like you. You put on your jewelry, a signet ring of gold with a carnelian stone carved by a master engraver, an armband of twisted silver, sandals made of soft leather, dyed red or white. You step out into the courtyard. The house turns inward. The street outside is noisy and dirty, but here, inside, is a sanctuary. A fountain splashes in the center. Pomegranate trees and laurel bushes provide shade. Breakfast awaits you. It is a meal that would feed a peasant family for a week. There is bread, but not the gritty barley cake of the poor. This is white bread, made from wheat imported from the Black Sea or Sicily. It is sifted through fine linen until only the purest flour remains. It is soft, sweet, and airy. There is honey, collected from your own apiaries on the slopes of Mount Hymettus, famous for its wild thyme. The honey is amber-colored and thick. There is cheese, aged in cool caves on your country estate. There are figs, purple and bursting with sweetness. There are olives, cured in brine and herbs. And there is wine. Even at breakfast, the wine flows. But it is not the vinegar of the taverns. It is a vintage, perhaps from the island of Chios or Thasos. It is mixed with water, of course, but also perhaps with a little snow. Snow in the summer? Yes. You have paid men to climb to the peaks of the mountains in the winter, to pack snow into pits lined with straw, so that in the heat of July you can have a cold drink. It is the ultimate luxury, controlling the seasons themselves. You eat from silver bowls. You drink from a kelixer wide, shallow cup painted with scenes of the gods. As you drink the wine, the image at the bottom of the cup is revealed. A dolphin, a satyr, a secret joke between you and the artist. But what do you do with your day? You do not work. Labor's Banazakit cramps the body and the mind. It is for slaves. For you, life is defined by shoal, leisure. But this is not laziness. It is the cultivation of the self. You leave the house, followed by a slave who carries your things. You walk to the Agora, but not to buy or sell. You go to the barber shop. This is the social hub of the elite. You sit, you are shaved, your hair is trimmed and curled. You exchange news. You talk about the war with Sparta. You talk about the new play by Euripides. You talk about who has fallen out of favor. Then you go to the gymnasium, the academy, the lyceum. These are parks with wrestling grounds and shaded colonnades. You strip off your expensive clothes. You oil your body. You wrestle in the sand with other men of your class. You throw the javelin. You run. The goal is kalos kagothos, beautiful and good. The belief that a beautiful body reflects a noble soul. After the exercise, you scrape the oil and dust from your skin with a bronze tool called a strigil. You bathe again. Then you sit in the shade of the plane trees. This is where the mind is trained. You listen to the philosophers. Perhaps Socrates is there, with his snub nose and his annoying questions. He challenges you. What is justice? What is piety? You debate. You use the rhetoric you learned from expensive sophist teachers. You quote Homer. You discuss geometry and astronomy. Your library at home is filled with scrolls. Papyrus from Egypt. Histories by Herodotus. Tragedies by Aeschylus. Medical texts by Hippocrates. You are a man of culture. You know the distance to the moon. You know the history of the Persian Wars. But where does this freedom come from? What pays for the oil, the wine, the scrolls? It comes from the invisible machinery of your estate. You do not toil, but you own. You own vast tracts of land in the countryside, groves of ancient olive trees that were planted by your grandfathers, vineyards that stretch across the hills. These estates are worked by armies of slaves. A bailiff manages them. You ride out occasionally on a fine horse to inspect the harvest. You look at the jars of oil filling the storehouse. You look at the crushing of the grapes, but you do not touch the press. You own tenements in the city, crowded apartment blocks, where the poor pay you rent to live in squalor. You might own a silver mine in Lorien. This is the dark heart of Athenian wealth. Deep underground, in narrow galleries, only 2 feet high, thousands of slaves hack at the rock in total darkness, breathing dust, living short, brutal lives to extract the silver that pays for your philosophy. You do not see them. You only see the silver coins that arrive in your strongbox. But wealth brings its own chains. In Athens, if you are rich, the city owns a part of you. There are no taxes on income, but there are the liturgies. The state comes to you. You are wealthy, they say. You will pay for the glory of Athens. They assign you a duty. Perhaps you must become a Kyragos. You must pay for the chorus in the upcoming theatre festival. You have to hire the singers, buy their costumes, pay for their training. It costs a fortune, or, more heavily, the triarchy. You are ordered to outfit a warship, a trireme. The state provides the hull. You provide everything else: the sails, the ropes, the food for the 170 rowers, the repairs. For a year, that ship is your responsibility. You might even have to command it in battle. This can bankrupt a family. But you do it. Why? For Tim Connor. You want your name carved on the stone monument. This victory was won by the ship outfitted by ... You are trapped in a cycle of competitive generosity. You must give more than your rival. You must be more patriotic. You must be more magnificent. And you do it for protection. Because a democracy is a jealous beast. The people look at your large house. They look at your purple cloak. And they feel envy. If you are too arrogant, if you keep your wealth too close, they can turn on you. The cords are a weapon. A sycophantic professional accuser might drag you to court on a trumped-up charge of impiety or embezzlement, just to see your wealth confiscated, or the ostracism. Once a year, the people gather. They scratch a name on a piece of broken pottery, an ostracon. If enough people write your name, you are exiled. You have 10 days to leave the city. You are gone for 10 years. So you walk a delicate line. You must be rich enough to be respected, but humble enough to be safe. You must be a king in your house, but a servant in the street. Let us turn now to the other half of this world, the women. If the life of an aristocratic man is a public performance, the life of an aristocratic woman is a secret. She lives in the gymnasium, the women's quarters, usually upstairs or in the most secluded part of the house. Her life is a gilded cage. She cannot leave the house without a chaperone. She cannot go to the market. She cannot attend the symposium. She cannot vote. She cannot own property. She is legally a minor for her entire life. First under the control of her father, then her husband, then her son. But inside the house, she is the queen. She holds the keys. She manages the stores, the grain, the wine, the wool. She supervises the slaves. She is the CFO of a major corporation. Her days are filled with the loom. Even the richest woman spins and weaves. It is the sign of her virtue. She sits with her slave girls. The rhythmic clack-thump of the loom fills the room. They weave the elaborate cloaks her husband wears. They weave the wall hangings. She raises the children, but she does not do the dirty work. A wet nurse breastfeeds the babies. A pedagogue, an old, trusted slave, walks the boys to school. She oversees their education until they are 7, and then the boys are taken away to the world of men. Her appearance is a construct. Because she stays indoors, her skin is pale. This pallor is prized. It shows she does not have to work in the sun like a peasant. To enhance it, she paints her face with white lead, Simethion. It creates a smooth porcelain mask. It is also toxic. It slowly poisons her, seeping into her skin, causing headaches and weakness. But beauty is a duty. She paints her lips with vermilion. She lines her eyes with kohl. Her marriage was likely arranged when she was 14. Her husband might be 30 or 40. She may not have met him before the wedding day. She is a vessel. Her purpose is to produce legitimate heirs, to ensure that the family property stays in the family line. If she fails to produce a son, she is a failure. She can be divorced and sent back to her father. If she is suspected of adultery, the consequences are catastrophic. She is ruined. So she lives a life of silence and shadows, surrounded by luxury silk cushions, ivory combs, gold mirrors, but denied the simple freedom of walking down the street alone. Now, let us move to the evening. The sun sets. The lamps are lit. For the aristocratic man, the night is for the symposium. This is the defining ritual of the elite, the drinking party together. It takes place in the antron, the men's room. The floor is made of cement or mosaic, slanted towards a drain so the wine and water can be washed away easily. The guests arrive, 7 or 8 men. They are friends, political allies, or fellow philosophers. They remove their sandals. Slaves wash their feet. They are crowned with garlands of ivy, myrtle, and violets. The scent of the flowers mixes with the perfume of the oil lamps. They recline on couches, 2 men to a couch, leaning on their left elbows. Tables are brought in with food, delicacies, roasted thrushes, eels from Lake Cope, honey cakes, and the wine. A symposiarch is chosen a toastmaster. He decides the strength of the wine. Tonight, he says, we will mix it 1 part wine to 3 parts water. We want to talk. Or, tonight, equal parts. We want to get drunk. The wine is mixed in a great ceramic bowl, the crater. Slaves dip pitchers into it and fill the cups. First, a libation to the gods, a splash of wine poured on the floor. A hymn is sung to Apollo. Then the evening begins. It is a mixture of high culture and low behavior. They recite poetry. They take turns singing verses of Theognis or Alcibiades, passing a branch of myrtle to the next singer. They play games, kotabos. They take the dregs of wine in the bottom of their cup. They twirl the cup by the handle and flick the wine at a targeta brass saucer balanced on a stand. Splosh, clang. They bet on the results. They laugh. Musicians are brought in. Flute girls playing the aulos, a double reed pipe with a piercing, hypnotic sound. The conversation flows. This is where politics happens. In the haze of the wine, alliances are forged. I will support you in the assembly if you support my lawsuit. This is where philosophy happens. In Plato's symposium, the guests spend the entire night giving speeches about the nature of love. They ascend from physical desire to the love of wisdom itself. But as the night wears on, the veneer of civilization cracks. The wine does its work. Arguments start. Cups are thrown. Sometimes they form a camosa, drunken procession. They stumble out into the street, carrying torches, singing loudly, banging on doors. These are the masters of the city, but in the dark, they are just men, escaping the pressure of their lives through intoxication. Let us look at their relationship with the end. Death. For the aristocrat, death is the ultimate anxiety. The poor man dies and returns to the earth. He is forgotten in a generation. But the aristocrat wants Cleo's immortal fame. He wants his name to be spoken forever. He spends a fortune on his tomb. Go to the Karamikos cemetery just outside the city gates. You see the street of tombs, massive marble monuments, a sculpture of a man in his prime, ideally beautiful. He is not shown old or sick. He is shown as a warrior or a statesman. He is shaking hands with his seated wife. A quiet, dignified gesture of farewell. There is no screaming grief in the stone, just a melancholy acceptance. He sets up a trust fund to pay for offerings at his tomb. He wants professional mourners to weep for him. He wants the oil poured and the ribbons tied on his gravestone every year. He is terrified of oblivion, because deep down, the Greek religion offers little comfort. The underworld, Hades, is a grey, dim place, a place of shadows. There is no heaven for the good. Everyone goes to the gloom. So the only immortality is memory. If people stop saying your name, you truly die. And so, his whole life, the liturgies, the politics, the statues, the poetry, is a desperate attempt to carve his name into the bedrock of time. This is the life of the golden cage. It is a life of incredible beauty, a life where the eye is constantly delighted by art, where the ear is charmed by music, where the mind is sharpened by debate, but it is a life of immense pressure. Pressure to maintain your status, pressure to defend your wealth, pressure to be beautiful, pressure to be remembered. You are never truly free. You are a servant to your own image. As we conclude our journey through ancient Greece tonight, let us step back from the marble halls. Let the music of the symposium fade into the night air. Let the scent of the rose oil drift away. We have traveled a long way together. We started in the dark, cramped house of the farmer. waking up before dawn to the smell of goats and the grit of barley bread. We felt the endurance of the ordinary people, the bedrock of the city. We followed the blazing, tragic path of Alcibiades. We saw how talent and beauty can be a curse, leading a man to run from city to city, never finding peace until he met his end in a rain of arrows. We dove to the bottom of the sea to touch the Antikythera Mechanism. We marveled at the lost genius of the engineers who tried to put the universe in a box, only to have their knowledge forgotten for 2,000 years. And finally, we walked through the painted corridors of the Aristocracy. We saw that even with silk on your skin and wine in your cup, there is anxiety. There is the fear of the mob, the fear of the gods, the fear of being forgotten. These stories remind us that the past was real. It wasn't a movie. It wasn't a statue in a museum. It was flesh and blood. It was hope and fear. The ancient Greeks were not gods. They were people. People who tried to make sense of a chaotic world. People who built beautiful things to hide their fear of the dark. But tonight, you do not have to worry about the dark. Let us return to the present, to your room, to your bed. You do not need to worry about the olive harvest. You do not need to worry about the Spartan army marching over the hill. You do not need to worry about the whims of Zeus or the envy of your neighbors. You are safe. Think about the luxury you have right now. A luxury that even the richest Athenian, even Pericles himself, could not imagine. You have a mattress that is softer than goose down. You have a room that stays the same temperature, no matter what the weather is doing outside. You have medicine that can cure a fever in a day. You have the knowledge of the world at your fingertips. Let that gratitude wash over you. Let the history book close. The ink is dry. The heroes are sleeping. The past is a dream. The present is peace. Imagine the night sky over the Aegean Sea. The stars are the same stars they looked at. The constellation of Orion, the Hunter, the Great Bear, the Pleiades. They are looking down on the ruins of the Parthenon. The marble is glowing white in the moonlight. The city is silent. The shouting of the assembly has faded. The carts have stopped rolling. There is only the sound of the wind blowing through the columns. She, and the sound of the sea. The wind-dark sea, lapping against the shore. You are floating on that sea. You are drifting away from the land, drifting away from the noise, drifting away from the history. You are weightless. You are calm. The bronze gears of the Antikythera Mechanism are turning slowly in the deep, marking the time. But time does not matter to you. You are here. You are now. Your breathing is slow. In and out. In and out. The journey is over. The work is done. The night belongs to you. Sleep now. Sleep in the quiet of the ages. Sleep in the peace of the night. Sleep.